Hey there, guys. This is Cole. Welcome back to instead of a movie review, we're reviewing a TV show this time. And today's TV show I'm reviewing is the 1969 TV series Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Which, this, of course, is one of the most well-known, iconic TV shows of all time. It kicked off a big franchise, not only of TV shows, but like a bunch of direct-to-video movies as well, and even a couple theatrical movies. But anyways, what is the plot of this TV series? Well, everyone knows what it is, but the plot synopsis to this TV series is as follows. The classic adventures of the lovable Great Dane and his human companions as they hunt for clues, hungry for a solution to mysteries and a snack. So, pretty simple premise overall, and when this TV show was released in 1969 by Hanna-Barbera Pictures, the people who did the Flintstones, it was a very well-received TV show. Critics and audiences, and when the show came out, it was a very well-received show by both critics and audiences. Critics and audiences praised the story for its They praised the TV show for its humor, its characters, and its overall catchy theme song of course, the title of the show, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And as for my reaction to the show, this show is an absolute classic, so it doesn't really need any introduction, but I figured I would give a review of this because, well, if I'm going to review some of the movies, I might as well review some of the TV shows as well, and this was my first exposure to Scooby-Doo. In fact, I think I was around 6 or something like that when I first saw this TV series, as my dad had got it for me on DVD for me and my sister to watch when we were kids, and yeah, been a fan of it then, and I'm still a fan of it now, but without further ado, let's get into the review. So, our first episode of the show is called, which is Season 1, Episode 1, is called What a Night for a Night. Kind of a funny title, but what I really like about this episode is the plot, where Scooby-Doo and Shaggy Rogers stumble across a lone suit of black armor, and that black armor just so happens to be worn by a person. And one thing I really like about this TV series, I really like the group of characters, specifically the Mystery Gang. Like, they're all great characters, Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, Fred, Daphne, Velma, all great iconic characters. And they also have by far one of the coolest fictional vans of all time. Like, one of the coolest fictional vehicles. Come on. The Mystery Machine is an awesome van. Like, I'm not, I don't have a driver's license, but, if I had one, I wouldn't mind riding a vehicle that looks similar to it. Like, it's that cool of a vehicle. But in the first episode, we're introduced to our two main characters, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo, who, we basically hear a howl in the background, and then Shaggy and Scooby. And one thing I really like about Shaggy and Scooby as characters is, they're always afraid of even the smallest stuff. Like, pretty much anything will just scare them, but it's absolutely hilarious. But Fred, Daphne, and Velma are not as easily scared. But that's what I like about it. I like how each of the characters are different from one another, and that's what makes them all stand out. And I especially like the dog Scooby-Doo, who is a Great Dane. And what I like about Scooby-Doo, compared to other Great Danes, even though he is a fictional character, is because now I have seen one of my dad's friends actually did have a Great Dane as a pet who sadly passed away a few years ago, but most Great Danes are grayish, but what I like about Scooby-Doo is that he's a brown Great Dane with some black spots on him. It's a very unique, standout, different design for a Great Dane, not only from how they look in real life, but just, in fictional media in general. And of course, Scooby-Doo has one of the iconic catchphrases, dog where, or rog where, because he has a speech impediment and he is like, rog where, just great stuff. And in the first episode, basically there's this guy who has a museum with dinosaur bones, etc. And basically some stuff is going on, like some stuff is going missing from the museum, and the mystery gang have to solve it. And what I really like about the mystery gang as characters is their solution to solving mysteries is where basically the mystery gang, they will basically search for clues and basically set up traps to capture the person behind, or the monster, or the person in the costume, which with the original Scooby-Doo TV series, it pretty much always ended up being a guy in a costume, even a really good costume, although later Scooby-Doo media would change that a little bit with Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, which I think is easily the best Scooby-Doo movie, direct-to-video movie, great movie. I reviewed that back in October, but in all the original show, it's all just people in masks. But honestly, I'm okay with that because it was always entertaining to figure out, who was behind the mask and stuff like that. And I really like the Black Knight in this first episode. I think that and just like what makes him work as a villain is like he's a completely silent villain. And I would argue that the silent villains are sometimes more creepy. And granted, this is granted, we all know who the target audience is for this show, but I think it works. And what's great about Scooby-Doo is it can be enjoyed by both kids and adults. Like, that's what's great about it. And another thing about this TV series in particular is that, honestly, this is a TV series that you can watch during the October season because this TV show definitely has the October theme throughout it. Like, that's what I really like about this show. And I also really like the third episode of season 1, episode 3, Hassle in the Castle, where basically the Scooby gang or the mystery gang basically go to they drive a boat and they go to this castle that looks like something you would see out of a Bram Stoker novel like Dracula, and there's basically a phantom ghost haunting them, which at the end of the episode we find out it's just a guy in a costume, but he was able to really make it look realistic because he basically used a projector to make it look like he was floating and going through walls. Very clever. And yeah, I also really liked the episode. I also really liked season 1, episode 12 because season 1, episode 12, it deals with ancient Egyptian culture, where basically the gang helps a professor set up an ancient Egypt exhibit, which, coming from someone who likes mummies and, likes Egyptian culture, I thought that was a rather good episode. And there's also other great, and what's so great about Scooby-Doo, and what's so great about this TV series is not only the great characters and, the general premise and, the fact that these episodes are fast-paced, but and the mystery to go alongside them. I also like the villains in this show. There's some really good villains. You got Captain Cutler, basically the ghost, basically the yellow scuba gear suit guy with the glowing seaweed on him. That's an iconic villain right there. Miner 49er is also a pretty good villain, and the Black Knight is iconic too, and the Creeper I really like because the Creeper is basically like Frank. It's not Frankenstein, but in a way it's the closest thing Scooby-Doo, at least the Scooby-Doo TV show had used, at least the closest thing to Frankenstein that wasn't a Scooby-Doo TV series. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, at the end of the day, the show's an absolute classic. This show doesn't really need any introductions. And again, it's one of those things, it's like, well, how can I review a show that's so iconic? But yeah. Anyways, guys, that was my review on this TV series. And I'm going to give this TV series a full-blown 10 out of 10. So yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this review. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye now.